All right, go.
I'm George Crane. My father, Sylvester Crane, everybody called him S.A. Crane. He was going to build a pad site for me to build a house for them because the highway was coming through I-40 and had to tear down all the farm buildings that he had there. So in the process, he was trying to start a tractor on a cold day. And he was reaching in trying to pump the primer pump on the fuel pump, and when he reached over from the ground to hit the starter, it started because it's supposed to not start in gear, but it was halfway between gears apparently, and it started and jumped in gear, and somehow it kept from hitting him with the rear wheel. The step on the tractor pushed him along as it went along, and he was hanging on the bottom side of that tractor, and it drug him around the farm a while, and he was hanging on the underside of the tractor, but the blade was coming up behind him. He had a Fresno blade on. It was up above the ground a little bit, but not enough to clear his body. So he had a stock tank out there, and the tractor ran into the water stock tank, and it had a water feed to it that punched him in the groin, knocked a hole about the size of an egg in his groin, and whenever the cattle had washed out around the tank, it made a kind of a groove around the water tank where the water had flowed over, and so his body was kind of deposited right there. But then whenever the blade came across him, it had already wore out one side of his leg, dragging him, and then the other side scalped him out from the tractor, or from the blade. And then it cut him open at his pelvis, hip, and exposed the femur artery. He lay in 110 degrees in August for 2 hours for my little brother Charles Crane found him out there in the field. Well, the tractor had pushed that tank a ways and killed itself. It died.
How old was he on this one?
I'm guessing he was probably 60.
60 for the first one? Okay.
Yeah, we could figure it out. It happened in 1975 when.
Well, he was born in 1915, so yeah, 60.
Yeah. So he ended up in the ambulance that took him to Tucumcari, New Mexico, and they said, "Oh, we can't do anything for him. His injuries are too bad." So they didn't have a Metaflight to send him to Amarillo, so they took him in a ambulance to Amarillo, Texas. That was 2 hours in addition to the 2 hours he'd been laying out there in the field. Got him in trauma care. So by the time they were treating him in trauma care, it was 7 hours that he'd survived with an open wound, an exposed femur artery that he survived from. Dad said he only had one regret, that he would be leaving Mother alone, that he would die and leave her alone as a widow. But it's interesting how many of the farmers, because of Dad's commitment to the Lord, they knew that my dad was a very righteous man because of Christ, but he lived it too. I always thought about the worst word my dad ever said, I heard him say anyway, was we were walking through the pasture and he said, "Don't step in that turd." So he ended up with a brace on his leg with an open wound that leaked out pus all the rest of his life. He would stuff washcloths in there just to contain it, the drainage out of his leg. And then he got another accident. He was getting off of his little tractor and he knocked it in gear. And whether he was getting off because his brace on his leg made it kind of cumbersome. So that may have been like 16 years later. I'd built a new house for them, and they continued to farm. Mother climbed the towers. She didn't ever drive the tractors, but Dad continued to farm. And when he got run over by that little tractor, the rear wheel with extra weight on it, about 1,500 pounds, went across his chest.
It had fluid in the tires?
And he had
or weights bolted
weights
to it?
on the tires, yeah.
Okay.
And he climbed up off the ground, got back on the tractor, drove him back to the house, called the police. I said, why don't you call the ambulance? Oh, that's all right. I just need to report an accident. So he survived that one pretty well. Mother laid the jacket out to see where he had tracked over his chest, and apparently it come right across his chest from the tractor dirt print on his jacket. Then he and Mother were coming back from Clovis, New Mexico, Portales one time, and this drunk driver T-boned them at an intersection, and they went into the fence and cut my dad's lip up clear in two, his upper lip where it's hanging down like Darth Vader. Mother wasn't hurt, but she was buckled. Then another time, they were coming back from Clovis, and apparently his cataracts were giving him some limited vision driving against the sun. They were doing a highway repair with asphalt, and they had dumped a load of asphalt in the middle of the road in the lane he would have been in. So the flagman had mushed him over to the other lane, and Dad thought he was to the end of that construction area, and he pulled over and he hit a pile of asphalt head on, and he went airborne with that car, a little Buick Lucerne or something. Went airborne. When he come back down after he come across that pile of asphalt, it bent the car in half.
Oh my.
So they survived that one, and then he got a bruise on his posterior because he wasn't riding on a cushioned seat. On the tractor, they just had those buckets that you ride, metal buckets.
Metal bucket, yep.
Yeah, he was riding, and he got a carbuncle, which is deterioration of his buttocks. A hole, and they had to fill it with artificial flesh to get it to heal up.
When was the third tractor thing?
I'm not remembering what that was about.
Oh, I thought he had third.
Well, could have been. That is Lily, isn't it?
Yeah, she's going nuts over there.
So anyway, you ready to go again?
Yeah, we'll check it out here. Well, didn't he have something like 4 different animal diseases inside of him?
Yeah,
when they finally found out.
To get him to heal up from the carbuncle disease, they found that he had animal diseases still live in his body that he wasn't able to heal very well. Although it should have killed him. It would have probably killed anybody. He couldn't climb the towers anymore on the sprinkler system, so Mother climbed the towers to keep the sprinklers going. One time we had 5 those valley sprinklers, 2 on the north farm.
So he died in '02 at 87 years old.
Yeah.
Officially a prostate cancer, but, basically old age. I mean,
Well, he got a infection on his heel because he had been bedfast a little bit because he had fallen getting in and out to the bathroom in the middle of the night. And the little girl that was helping take care of him did not realize he had gangrene on his heel. And before they could schedule amputation of his leg with gangrene, he died from a heel sore.
yeah. Well, there you go. Well, there was no quit within him, for sure.